Hello and welcome to Tokyo. I'm here with Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, who's in a visit to Japan along with prominent members of corporate India, some of whom are with me right now. Let me start off by asking, sir, about one trend that we have seen over the past few years, and that is Japan being a source of long-term funds. These are D2G funds which have been coming into India. Give us a sense of, do you see this trend continuing forward, and in what sectors do you see those funds coming in?
A very good question. I had a chance to come to Japan soon after this government was elected to power. It was almost 2 years ago. And again, got a chance to come in now. And I see a big difference, big change. 2 years ago, corporate Japan, the private sector which you talked about, was waiting for opportunities. They were all looking at India, but they were waiting for opportunities. And now I think they are all looking and moving towards India. They're definitely out there to make investments, and we have started seeing that happening across the different sectors. So not just G2G which you talked about, those are the big projects which are already happening, things like bullet train or Delhi-Mumbai corridor and all of them, but also the private sector across the different sectors, whether it is consumer or engineering or heavy engineering, and there is a compatibility between India and Japan.
One issue that we saw regarding the bullet train, there are negotiations going on at the moment, but we understand that India perhaps also wants a Make in India angle to it. Do you think Japan will agree to invest in some sort of facilities regarding such big ticket projects? We have seen some companies like GE, for example, coming in and setting up factories for locomotives. Do you see Japanese companies doing that in India? And if the panel can give some idea regarding that.
See, what the interesting thing is that our need matches with Japanese skills. So what we need is heavy engineering, and that's what is available in Japan. And if you've seen the Japanese commitment to India, they have actually manufactured in India earlier as well. So I think going forward, it will continue to happen. I love others.
What are the top issues according to you, which perhaps the government could, we are seeing the ease of doing business, for example, ensuring that licenses, clearances, they are given in time. But any specific issues that you would want to see the government address in terms of making it easier for foreign investors and domestic investors to basically have an easier environment in terms of setting up factories or bringing in investments?
I think on the ease of doing business, it's work in progress. Many steps have been taken, and many are left to be taken. The government of India itself set itself a target of becoming amongst the 50 most ease of doing business ranking countries, and they are a little plus 100 at the moment. So I think they already have an agenda set out, and it's a long legacy. It takes a while for things to happen, but I do see a lot of commitment and sincerity towards working towards these resolutions, be it simplification, allocation of resources. We have seen there has been a lot of transparency in that. Infrastructure is a very important part of ease of doing business, so we see a lot of investments, be it in roads, rail, or even the Sagarmala project, interlinking of rivers. So I think they push the right buttons. I think there's a lot of work to be done. So obviously we're not seeing all the solutions immediately because that takes time.
One particular issue regarding ease of doing business where our rankings are really low is regarding the way litigations are carried out and dealt with within India. What do you think, sir, do we need to ensure that at least there is some amount of movement in those rankings as well? Because from what we understand, even government is sort of clueless on how to basically get some amount of direction regarding having faster clearances of court cases, etc.
I think there are three issues around this. One is the lack of judges. Our Chief Justice has clearly said that he needs 40,000 new judges to handle the backlog. The other two reforms have effectively already happened. The introduction of commercial courts and the setting up of an international arbitration center in Mumbai. The Arbitration Act has been changed, modified to modern circumstances, and the litigation in a sense is being moved away from the normal courts into specialized courts. This would definitely go a long way when you're looking at issues in terms of commercial matters. And I think the relationship cross-country is essentially more commercial than personal. So I think we're on the way. We need to really see that the services rendered by the courts are top grade, and you have a technology solution also, so that you really attract people, because the end story ultimately is fast resolution of disputes and not just calling for investments or getting them moved into India and implemented. You do have disputes, as is the case in every country, so there has to be a fast resolution on this.
Mr. Ranade, do you see any low-hanging fruits regarding this, which the government should be targeting to get immediate results?
Well, first of all, since we are in Tokyo, I must repeat what my friend Sunil said. These two countries represent the greatest complementarity. Long-term investable funds which are earning very low returns here. Long-term, they have this country, Japan, has very big pension liabilities which are looking for returns of at least 3%, which is not possible domestically here. And India, complementarily, is a country hungry for investment, hungry for long-term projects, funding, like infrastructure. So I think this is a real opportunity. And you had mentioned that will Japan be okay if manufacturing, all of it takes in India? It's not all or nothing. It's a question of negotiating. Even if half of it, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of crores. Even half of it, if manufacturing happens in India, that's a huge win. So it doesn't have to be full all or nothing. About low-hanging fruit, I think we were very close to, I know that you said don't mention GST, but I must mention it because we are very close to it. So I think all the differences have been narrowed to just 1 or 2 points. So if they can just reach across the aisle.
But those points, we do not see any direction regarding that, because those are political points and not economic points.
There is some political point scoring, but I think they have narrowed it down to very, very key points.
Specifics, yes.
And I believe the chairman of the Empowered Committee now is the Finance Minister of Bengal, who is very proactive about this. So remember, there's a big role for state government as well. It's not just the opposition party in parliament. So I think I'm very hopeful that we'll see some action this year. Apart from that, there are other low-hanging fruit, if I can call them that, is in terms of the disinvestment targets. We have missed them on 2 occasions. So I think we need to find a way to fast-track this process and perhaps not focus too much on maximizing revenue from sale of assets, but actually get the process going, because you can never time it. And there's other stuff which I must mention, because one worry point, there have been a lot of good things which are moving in the right direction, and I believe we are going to see a really, hopefully a bumper Diwali. But one area which needs a lot of urgent attention is the export area. Our manufacturing cannot do well unless export also do well.
Right. The Commerce Minister says that global demand is low. We can't do anything. What according to you?
No. It's not. We can't deny that the global situation is not as rosy as we would like it to be. But remember, many of our East Asian peers are showing positive growth. Our performance for the last 15 months has been minus 16-17% consistently. Surely we can go above zero. So I think there are a lot of areas there, including fiscal support. Let's not forget, it's tweaking like ease of doing business, but also exports perhaps need some fiscal support, some support. So we must look at it holistically. I know there are issues like FTAs and the fact that they're being reviewed, but I think that's an area, because manufacturing, the health of manufacturing cannot be divorced from the health of exports. So that's I think a low-hanging fruit, because by the way, now that oil prices are slowly going up, I think indirectly it's speaking about good health of the world economy. There are some indications. We don't want them to go up rapidly, but if they're gradually going up, it also says something about the improving prospect. I think the IMF is also saying that 2016 GDP is going to be higher. So let's see.
Talking about disinvestment, I would want comment from other members of the panel also. Strategic disinvestment is one idea which has been floated. Will corporate India be interested in participating in this process? Does corporate India have the wherewithal to participate in strategic disinvestment? And what are the points actually what the companies would be looking at?
I think companies are generally interested in investment, except that there has been a last 3-4 years, there has been economy has been slow, and as a result corporate profits have been somewhat low, and they have been stretched with high debts on their balance sheets. So given that, there is obviously the euphoria in the normal circumstances for investment would be slightly low. But we do see a fairly, moving upwards kind of growth trajectory post-monsoons. And I think corporate India should be back into investment mode in a big way.
Right.
And at that time, strategic disinvestment would be most welcome. And I'm sure different companies would look at different assets as and when they come up.
Right. Talking about growth, the feedback that we have is that, and this is what FM keeps on saying, that, next year will be obviously better. But recent data, especially Labour Ministry data, that shows that perhaps we are not adding as much jobs. In fact, we are actually miserably low in adding incremental jobs into the system. The requirement is, I guess, around 10 lakh jobs per month. We are getting perhaps 1/10 of that. Isn't that going to create a big problem going forward for the economy?
Well, that's certainly a very major issue and challenge for the country. There is no debating. You must see that the last few years the economy has been slow, so naturally the job creation has been tepid, and also people have been looking at efficiencies, so there has been a lot of right sizing and things like that. But as we see now the different initiatives, the Stand Up India, the Startup India, it's not about jobs alone, it's about creating income generating opportunities, even if it is self-employment and small businesses, etc. I think the country has to move away from a simplistic thing that you are going to work in big factories to a more complex way of job creation, which is setting up small and micro enterprises, etc., including a lot in the services sector. So I think initiatives taken by the government to sort of trigger these different things are fairly important and welcome. And of course it takes a time, because if your mindset is that you were looking for a job and now you have to set up an enterprise, you need a little recalibration internally as well. So I think there's a lot of hand-holding, education, mentorship, etc. that needs to be done by all of us,
right,
to create that new paradigm shift,
right,
that while jobs will be created, there will be other opportunities that also need to be harnessed.
Thank you so much for joining us here at Tokyo. Thank you so much.